Are you the prettiest girl in the whole wide world?
It does feel a little hectic to me that I've got a cat right here and she is watching me. Anyway, guys, happy May. Welcome back to my channel if you are new. My name is Steph. Let's jump into all the books I read in the month of April. I think I read a total of 21. If you do hear a little bell jingle jangling, that is my cat cleaning herself. So let's just quickly jump into the few books that I read e-copies of, or books that I no longer have with me. First, we've got Shiver by Junji Ito. This is a short story collection essentially, and I really loved it. I used to read Junji Ito's collections consistently, and then I kind of overwhelmed myself with how many I was reading. They were getting like confused in my head, and this was my first jump back into his work, and I truly loved this collection. Each story was really fun. Obviously the imagery disgusting as per usual. I think I gave this like a 4.5 star. Highly recommend. Then we have The First Time She Drowned. This book I've already unhauled. This book has already been donated to a charity shop. I really didn't like this book. I didn't love the way like mental health was depicted. Basically, we follow this teenage girl whose family has like wrongfully put her into a psych ward against her will, and we follow her the day that she gets out and her first couple of days at university and the friends that she makes at university, and how her past trauma is kind of impacting her present, and how she didn't really deal with the trauma of her past. She just kept pretending that everything was fine. And yeah, there was a lot of things I found quite strange about this book, but most importantly, there was a massive like plot twist, plot reveal that to me was so obvious, and I just don't think it was addressed sensitively. And that's coming from someone who's generally not sensitive about things. Like, I don't care, fiction is fiction, what happens in books is just in books, right? But it just felt like the author had some sort of vague idea about trauma and went, yeah, that'll work. I just didn't enjoy it like at all, and I'm really disappointed. I really thought I would enjoy this one. Similarly, we have They Never Learn. This one is again a book that I physically had. I owned it, and it's already been taken back to the op shop because I just didn't enjoy it. We follow a woman, a university professor, who year by year kills off the more problematic males at the university, the boys that get away with sexual assault and sexual harassment and sort of depraved shit. We are also following a different character who is starting her first year at this university. And again, there was like a moment in this book when things were revealed where I was like, that was just so obvious. And like, guys, genuinely, are we getting to a point where I've just read too many fucking books? Like, I've read so many books that I no longer enjoy the books that other people enjoy. I'm not sure. Let me know if that's ever happened to you. I just feel like every book I'm reading that has some reveal or plot twist, I'm like, yeah, obviously. That could just be me. Regardless, again, I didn't really love this book. I didn't love the way things were handled. I didn't really like the writing style. Just was not the book for me, so I unhauled it. Next we have Love Sickness by Junji Ito. Now, this one was actually a miss for me as well. This is not so much a short story collection as a specific occurrence in this town that we are following across multiple stories. So in this town, people will wait at an intersection, and the first stranger that passes, they'll be like, hey, like, I'm wanting to know my fortune, tell me my fortune. And the stranger, like, on the spot will kind of just make up a fortune for this person, and everyone takes this as kind of gospel in this town. Like, this is our tradition, this is what we do. Which is fine until a really handsome man appears at the crossroads and starts telling people really terrible fortunes. That's all I'm really gonna say, but I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like this mysterious like character who was telling people bad things. The visuals, like, nothing was super disturbing to me from what I remember. So this is, I think, one of the first Junji Ito collections where I'm like very okay with never touching it again. And lastly, for books I don't physically have, we have got You Should Have Left. I have been wanting to read this book for literal years. This tiny little baby book has been on my TBR for years, and I don't know why. Why? Because I also did not really enjoy this book. This book follows a family, so a man, his wife, and their daughter. He's a screenplay writer. They end up in this house, which is like strange. There are some weird things happening in this house. Like, this man is having very strange dreams, and he's like seeing things and like hearing things, and it's like a little bit weird. Except this book just didn't go anywhere. Like, I finished the book and I went, what was the point of all that? I don't think there was one. It was just like too weird for me. Like, if I don't understand what I've just read, 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to lack the fact that I didn't understand what I just read. And this was one of those. So I'm really glad that I listened to this on Spotify and I didn't pay for it. Okay, let's jump into the books I have physically, although some of these will not be in my possession for very long. First, we have got Honeymoon Phase by Emmy Dawes. This is the third book in the Mountain Men Matchmaker series, and I really enjoyed this one. If I had to rank the first 3 books so far, I'd go book 1, book 3, and then book 2. So in this book, we follow Luke, the last of the Fletcher siblings, and his best friend, Addison. So they are already best friends, like their friendship coexists before this book starts. And basically, in order to inherit her father's company, Addison needs to be married. It's one of those. And Luke's like, yeah, just marry me. And she's very, very against this idea. She would rather have like a strictly contractual marriage, and Luke is her best friend. However, obviously they do this marriage of convenience thing. It goes basically how you would expect it to go, but there's just something really cute about these books. Like, I really do enjoy them. I'm gonna keep this one for sure. I'm definitely keeping 9-month contract the first book. I don't know if I want to keep 7-year itch. Like, the book part of my brain goes, well, you have to keep all 3 because it's a series. The other part of my brain goes, I don't want to keep the second book if I didn't enjoy the second book, but I'm not sure what we're going to do in that situation. So this is going to stay on my shelves. Next, I picked up Strange Pictures by Yuketsu. So I think last month I read Strange Houses, and I really, really love this book. I gave this 5 stars, I think. I enjoyed this a lot more than Strange Houses. If you don't know, these books are translated from Japanese, and they have like diagrams and pictures and descriptions of all the weird things that have occurred. Now, in Strange Houses, a lot of the pictures were just floor plans. In this, as you could see, there was like different diagrams, different media, different things to look at. So this follows Yuketsu, our author. He is like a character in his own book. And through this, how many chapters are we looking at? Because each chapter is like a self-contained story, but there's always an overarching plot that connects them. So this is 4 chapters. Each one focuses on like a strange drawing or a picture or something strange that's been found. And I really, really loved the way that this story came together. This is a very, very cool collection of stories. It's a very cool collection of books. So I would highly recommend, especially this one, if you're going to pick up one of Yuketsu's books. I would definitely, you could probably start with Strange Pictures, to be honest. I read this second, but you could probably read this first. I don't think it makes much of a difference. Then we have Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam, and I really wanted to love this book. I think after finishing it, I convinced myself that I liked it more than I did. In this book, we are following your typical family, mum, dad, daughter, son, and they are staying essentially in an Airbnb. They rented out a house, they're staying there. They like don't really have great connection on their phones, but it's fine. They're having a relatively nice holiday until 2 people show up to the door of their rental property claiming to be the owners of the rental property, and they basically say, look, things are getting scary out there, something is changing in the world, we kind of want our house back, like we can all stay here together, but like they basically say we are going to be staying in this house with you. And a lot of this is just the tension between these 2 parties who don't know each other, don't know if they can trust each other. All the while, something weird is happening in the world. And honestly, by the end of the book, you don't really have a clear picture of what exactly is happening to the world outside. But they're in this little self-contained universe in this house. And yeah, tensions rise, things get strange, teeth start falling out. Spoiler alert, that was not a fun little section to read. I don't know if I want to keep this yet. I think I'm going to watch the movie and then see how I feel. It is a little book. It was really quick to get through. I finished it in 1 sitting. But sometimes I just need a little bit more confirmation on exactly what scenario I'm looking at. And this just was very up in the air, like, oh, something's happening. Communications are down. Weird things are happening. But what specifically? Maybe I just missed it. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Next, I picked up I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. Now, this entire book, this is a nonfiction about the Golden State Killer. And basically, Michelle was, I guess, a true crime investigator, not in any like official capacity, but she just really enjoyed the research process based on, I think, a murder that happened in her childhood neighborhood. So she put or compiled all the information in this book for her own kind of personal hunt with the Golden State Killer. Now, unfortunately, he actually wasn't caught until after Michelle's passing. So her husband and a couple of other authors put this book together and published it for her. But this was a very, very dark set of crimes. I didn't know anything about the Golden State Killer before I picked this up. And honestly, one of the more depraved depraved killers and rapists out there. He was, a serial rapist as well as a serial killer. And he didn't just rape and kill. The psychological nature of his crimes really, really fucked me up. So I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but I flew through this book. I was very intrigued, very interested, and very disgusted, which is exactly what you want from a true crime novel. Then I picked up something a little bit lighter, which is Ghosted by Amy Hutton. So first of all, I only bought this because of the sprayed edges. How do I feel about this book? This book follows our psychic named Holly. And she sees ghosts and she exorcises ghosts. She gets rid of them. And then we have got Callum. He is a paranormal investigator, and they had like a situationship that kind of ended terribly a few years ago, but Callum's just been asked to investigate this very specific house, and he doesn't really want to do it alone, and he reaches out to Holly and says, hey, hope you've been well. Do you mind coming to this investigation with me? And from there, not only does their relationship spark back up, but obviously there is a reason these two people have been drawn back to this specific house, and it was fun. It was, for the most part, quite light-hearted, but it definitely ends in a way that makes me think we are going to get a sequel. Would I read the sequel? Probably not, but for a self-contained novel about a paranormal romance, this can stay. So, next I picked up Free by Amanda Knox. I purchased this a couple of months ago. If you don't know about the Amanda Knox case, this is not the time nor place for me to explain it to you, but the longest of stories short, Amanda Knox was a exchange student from America who lived in Italy, and quite early, I believe, into her stay in Italy, her roommate was found murdered, and she was, accused, arrested, charged, and convicted of her roommate's murder, when the physical DNA evidence really didn't prove anything. And obviously she's written a book, so it's called Free. She does get out of prison eventually, but this followed not just the sequence of events that led to her imprisonment and her freedom. This is about Amanda being basically explaining that as a 21-year-old in a different country, without her family, without her support, being accused of such a horrendous act that she didn't do, at a point in her life when she was trying to find herself, kind of really fucked with her sense of self, and that it's taken her actual years to finally really come to terms with just how much she lost during her time in the Italian prison system. Now I will say, guys, in this book, she makes a very, very convincing case that there is no way she could have committed this crime. I'm still on the fence. I've watched documentaries with Amanda, and I just don't get the best energy from her. I wish I could say that she's 100% innocent and Italy did her so dirty. Now, Italy definitely did. The Italian justice system, actually laughably terrible. Watch the Netflix documentary. Some of the shit that they got away with was crazy. However, can I say with 100% certainty that Amanda is innocent? I can't. Despite that, I did enjoy this book. I think that she has a very interesting perspective on life that a lot of people probably do not have. How many of us are going to be wrongfully imprisoned in Italy for 8 years? Probably not many of us. So it was a very interesting perspective. Next, I picked up The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. This was a disgusting little book, and I'm so glad I enjoyed it. We are following a Korean girl, and she has got a younger sister and she has got a mother, and their father has just dipped, and a couple of months in, her mum has a new boyfriend, and he's a white guy, and he's your typical gross white guy, fetishizing, is that how you say that word? He seems to have a fetish for Asian women, and he seems to not really care that one of his girlfriend's daughters is underage, because he definitely sexualizes her, and he's pretty fucking disgusting, but he has got really beautiful eyes. Now, our main character recently ate a fish eyeball for the first time, and she thought she'd be disgusted, but she kind of enjoyed it, and now she's really intrigued by John's beautiful blue eyes. I loved this. I love a good for her, supporting women's rights and wrongs, coming of age sort of story. This definitely ticked all those boxes. Now, I don't know if Monica Kim's next book is going to be up my alley, but I did really, really enjoy this for what it was. I would highly recommend. It was just the right amount of disgusting and real life horror and justice served. Then I picked up, I think this was my favorite book of the month, which is so crazy. I've heard not great things about this book online recently. It is How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates by Shaylee Thomas. First of all, the Australian/UK cover of this is objectively 1,000 times better than the American cover, which never happens. I really love the style of this, and I love the sprayed edge. Like, I just think this is such a cute book physically. This is a horror rom-com, okay? This follows our main character, Jamie Prescott. Like, I see what you're doing, Shaylee. This entire book is basically a love letter to horror lovers and romance lovers. So, we're following Jamie. She has been convinced to go to this speed dating event at this club that she and her best friend used to go to. So her best friend drags her along, and while they're there, Jamie actually has a really good conversation with a couple of guys, and she's like, holy shit, I might actually meet someone out of this experience. But then all the lights go off, and when the lights come back on, people have been fucking slaughtered. There's been some murder up in this shiz, and Jamie, as a horror movie lover and a rom-com lover, she puts on her fucking leadership hat, and she goes, I know how we're going to survive this. I am well versed in horror movies. I know how serial killers think, and I know how slashers go. People need to follow me. So she kind of appoints herself as a leader. Meanwhile, she's also there with these two guys that she's both very attracted to and could see herself ending up with, until she starts to think that maybe one of them is the killer in disguise. So fun, highly would recommend, absolutely love this, flew through this book, cannot wait to see what else Shaylee Thomas comes out with. Genuinely, such a good debut, fucking loved it. Next, I picked up You Are Fatally Invited. Now, I picked this up for a Goodreads Achievement Award for a book about books, and this really just didn't hit for me. It's kind of set up like And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, so we have 6 thriller authors all invited to an island owned by a prolific but anonymous thriller author. So these 6 authors all meet on this island, and they're like, where's our host? When are we going to meet him? But the only communication they have with their host is the event organizer, Mila, who obviously organized everything, getting these people here to this island. And yes, we have got Mila, who is definitely involved in this situation. She plans on getting revenge on one of these authors, but then the first murder occurs, and Mila's like, that was not part of my plan, and that was not part of this author's plan. What is happening here? It was interesting, I was intrigued, but it is quite long for what it is, and because it was set up so obviously And Then There Were None, when it took plot elements from And Then There Were None, I was not surprised, and it didn't exceed expectations. It didn't surprise me. There was an aspect to it of these little games that the group needs to play each night. I actually did enjoy those. I think some of those were kind of fun and very, very passive aggressive. But apart from that, I wasn't obsessed with this book. So I don't know if I'm going to keep it or not. I'm leaning towards not. I'm trying to read and unhaul more books that I bring into my life, and I just don't think seeing this on my shelf is going to make me think, oh my god, that was such a good book. So that one might have to go. This next one is definitely going to go. I picked up Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. Now, contextually, guys, this book did come out in 2011, right? It came out 15 years ago. That was half my lifetime. Half my lifetime ago, this book came out. And I can imagine, as a 2011 release, this would have fucking blown people's minds. As someone who's reading this in 2026, this was just so typical. I don't know what the movie is called. There's a movie with Brenda Song, which is basically this entire book. So I'm definitely thinking that whoever directed that movie or produced that movie read this book and thought that would be a really, really cool movie, because they are ridiculously similar. So in this book, we are following our main character, Christine. Christine wakes up and she does not know what the fuck is going on. She has amnesia, and she will go through the entire day learning who she is, learning what's happened to her, and then she'll go to sleep and she'll wake up and she'll have amnesia all over again, and her day starts from scratch. Now, I recently read Do You Remember by Frida McFadden. Very, very similar premise. I actually preferred the Frida McFadden book over this. This book, it got to a point where the pace slowed down. So we are following Christine in the first part of this book. There's 3 parts. In the first part, we're following Christine one morning and her coming to understand that She does not know who she is, but her husband is in front of her telling her, I'm your husband, you love me, we have a great relationship, and she kind of has no choice but to trust him. Then she realizes that she has been keeping a diary, she's been keeping a journal. So the entire second part of this book, which is like 80% of this book, is her journal. It is just weeks and weeks and weeks of her journal. And then the third part of this book, the last like 10%, is us actually progressing in current day. The pacing was very, very strange. Christine wasn't a super likable character. I don't think anyone was super likable in this book, if I'm being 100% honest with you. And while I did enjoy like a confrontation scene towards the end, I was very unhappy with the actual ending. Some choices were made that I didn't necessarily love. So this is getting unhauled. Like, it was actually on my unhaul stack before I started filming this video. Guys, next I read... Oh, you know what? This might be my favorite book of the month. I haven't decided yet. We've got The Reformatory by Tanana Reeve Dew. Now, this is a thicker book. It is about 600 pages. This was also for a Goodreads Achievement Award. This book follows a 12-year-old black boy named Robert, and he makes a big boo-boo, he kicks a white kid, and he ends up getting sentenced to 6 months at the Reformatory. And as soon as Robert gets there, he, who already kind of sees spirits, he gets massive bad juju from this place. Like, as soon as he drives onto the property, he feels like his entire body's on fire, and he sees ghosts, and it is very clear straight away the Reformatory is not a good... Bro! Are you okay? Are you okay? Yeah, it's very clear, like, as soon as Robert is even sentenced, that the Reformatory is not a good place. It's not just like a reform school for bad boys. It's essentially a prison. And yeah, this is set in what, 1950s? Yes, in 1950. So obviously there's a lot of racism in this book, obviously. So I have a couple of thoughts, feelings. Because this book is so long, it was going to be impossible to not be emotionally invested in Robert's life. We also follow his older sister Gloria. I didn't care as much about her and her chapters because, like, Robert was the one living through the horrors of the Reformatory, and she was kind of just like trying to get him out. But yeah, this book was absolutely fucked. Like, there is definitely a villain. There's like a big bad. The guy who runs the Reformatory, fucking disgusting. There was a couple of chapters from his point of view. What a disgusting fucking point of view to read from, in all honesty. Like, it was... I stopped halfway through one of his chapters towards the end because I just, like, couldn't... Not that I couldn't deal with it, I just was like, this is gonna make me very fucking angry. So I stopped halfway through one of his chapters. He was a fucking deplorable human being, absolutely disgusting, hated him. But the bigger horror is the fact that, like, these things were done to not just black people, but to children. Like, some of the children at this Reformatory are like 8 years old. It's fucked. Like, the whole system is fucked, basically. The horror is the fact that the system, fictional and non-fictional, allowed these fucking deplorable things to happen. And yeah, this book kind of fucked me up, but like in a good way. Like, I really enjoyed how uncomfortable and angry this book made me. So I would highly recommend, if you like have the attention span for a 600-page book, I would definitely do it. I've actually ordered another book by this author since, so yeah, we'll see. I don't know if this was like a one-hit wonder, but I hope that I enjoy the rest of her books. The next book I picked up is called Living Dead Girl by Elizabeth Scott. This book was fucking awful. We are following a girl who has been named Alice. She's 15, and 5 years ago she was kidnapped from a school trip, and she's basically been living with this guy who sexually, physically, verbally abuses her day to day. But he only does it because he loves her so much. And Alice is kind of numb to this pain. She's lived through the worst of human pain, and she's like, yep, I lived through it. Didn't kill me, probably never will, and this is my life now. Until one day her kidnapper, her captor, says, look, I think I really want to start a family, so I'm thinking, like, you can be my woman, and you're gonna need to find another little girl to abduct, and she'll be our daughter. And instead of having any sort of care for this potential new victim, our girl Alice is like, oh my god, then he'll stop abusing me so much. Like, yes, let's find another girl for this man to kidnap. And no such thing as a perfect victim, I understand that, but I feel like most people, right, from the start of this book, we know that Alice is like, she is resigned to her fate, right? She really quickly goes from resigned to her fate to, oh my god, I can push all of my pain onto someone else. It just didn't feel real. I don't know how many people, 15 years old or not, would change their tune from, this is my life, I'm going to be stuck here forever until he kills me, to, oh, well, if he's distracted by this new child, I might be able to escape. It was wild. It was so bizarre. She was just such an unlikable character. Again, there's no such thing as a perfect victim, and if this was in real life, obviously my vibes would be different. However, this is a fictional book that I read, and if I don't care about the main character who's been abused for 5 years, who doesn't have a sense of self, who wishes she was dead, if I don't care about her, then what the fuck is the point of the entire book? The ending, so fucking unrealistic. Like, this guy who's captured her is supposed to be so fucking intelligent, so smart, and then at the end, I was like, oh, he's got shit for brains. It just like really pissed me off. This book was tiny, okay? This only took me like an hour and a half to read, and I'm annoyed that A, I spent money on this book, but B, that I wasted an hour and a half of my precious fucking life reading this shit. I didn't like it. Next, I picked up the next Iketsu book. So this book came out this year, or the translated edition came out this year, and it is Strange Buildings. Now, I will say, I would probably suggest reading Strange Houses and then directly after reading Strange Buildings. Where you read Strange Pictures, like before or after those two, doesn't really matter, but Strange Buildings does reference Strange Houses, so like maybe read those two together. As you can tell, this is about Strange Buildings. Similarly, we have got like floor plans and stuff, but this one is quite a bit thicker than the other two. So this one I think has like 11 chapters. Yes, file 11. So there are 11 files that Iketsu has compiled, and by the end he tries to work out how, if at all, these 11 files are connected. I don't want to get into the plot too much because these books are so quick. There's no point explaining what the connection could possibly be, but again, really, really enjoyed this. This was fun. I will say, Strange Pictures is more real life horror, like killer sort of stuff. Strange Houses and Strange Buildings is more like supernatural religious energy, and personally I prefer like the killer horrors over the supernatural horrors, but this was really, really fun. I really, really enjoyed this as well. Also, this book got like a little bit darker than I was expecting it to. All the books are dark. They all involve like kidnapping, killing, arson, whatever, but there was one element towards this book that's revealed at the very end, and I was like, I know that shit happens in real life, obviously, but it was pretty dark for what I expected from this book. Either way, highly recommend, really enjoyed. I will continue reading Iketsu's books as he publishes them. Next, I picked up the last book in the Rome series by Sarah Adams, In Your Dreams. These books, I feel like each book has just gotten better and better and better. So we started with When in Rome, then there was Practice Makes Perfect, then Beg, Borrow or Steal, and this is the last book, and I loved this book. We are following the last sibling, Madison. She is studying the culinary arts in New York City, and she's struggling. She's struggling without her family there. She's struggling not being in her hometown. And one night, she's just graduated, she accidentally calls her like family friend, James. Yes, I've read a lot of characters with the name James lately. It's kind of bonkers. Anyway, she accidentally calls James, and she sort of reveals that she's having a really rough time and she doesn't know what she's doing, and he decides to offer her a job as the chef on his farm's restaurant. Now, plot twist, there is no restaurant on his farm. He essentially creates this restaurant just so that she has a job to come home to. It was adorable. I really love this couple. I feel like the communication between all the characters in this series has been absolutely stellar. Like, yes, things do get miscommunicated or things aren't fully explained, but then when the characters do come together to have a discussion about what's been revealed, they actually talk like human beings and they don't like overreact. They just react. Love the series. I think I'm gonna keep reading Sarah Adams. It's crazy because these are very not spicy, and I just feel like there are so many romances today that are so heavy on the spice, and I fucking love that these books aren't. These characters aren't prudes, these characters aren't virgins. Like, they do have sex and they do explore things, but it's not so obvious and so in your face, and it's actually super refreshing. So We love that. Next, I picked up Alice Feeney's book, My Husband's Wife. This is her latest release, and this is the last Alice Feeney book I had to read. And it was strange. It was so bizarre. We start this book following a woman named Eden, and Eden grabs her house keys and she goes for her morning run. She's an artist, and she and her husband have just moved to this cute little town. And an hour later, she gets back from her run and she tries to unlock her front door, but the key doesn't work. So she rings the doorbell, and the woman who answers the door is like, I live here with my husband. And basically, Eden finds out that the woman who's living in her house with her husband is named Eden, and this woman has stolen her identity and her life, and shit gets kind of weird from there. I don't really want to explain anything else. Just understand that you have to suspend your disbelief so incredibly hard in this book. Like, there are some reveals towards the end, and initially I was like, okay, like, that's fine. And then I thought about it in the context of the entire book and was like, that's like weird. Like, I'm not gonna say exactly what it is because spoilers. It was just weird. Anyways, yeah. This was not my favorite Alice Feeney book. I still think Sometimes I Lie, I Know Who You Are, and Daisy Darker are my favorite Alice Feeney books, but this one wasn't so awful that I'm getting rid of it. I'm gonna keep it. It was just like strange. It was just a weird little book. But if you're down for like a weird ride, definitely pick it up. It was fun. And the last book I have to tell you guys about is one I'm so excited about. I'm so excited to talk about. I fucking love this book. This book is called The Farm. This book is an Australian book. Can you believe me talking about liking an Australian book so much? She's maturing, she's growing. This book follows a 36 or 37-year-old woman named Layla. She's dating a guy named James. I told you I've been reading a lot of books with a main character named James lately. And at the very start of this book, Layla goes through some trauma, and James decides, look, let's get away from Sydney, let's leave the city behind, let's go stay on my parents' farm for a while and sort of recoup and recover and heal. And Layla is like 100% down to do this, but she gets to the farm and she's kind of like, ooh, bad juju. And she starts kind of hearing things and seeing things that don't really make sense. And James is like, babe, you're on some medications. Like, you might just be kind of hallucinating. You kind of might just be seeing things. And shit gets kind of crazy from there. Shit gets kind of crazy. Now, I don't know if like it's really a spoiler, but there is quite a lot of, well, basically the entire book is about infertility. So if that's going to be a problem, probably don't read it. But yeah, this book was, while I was reading this book, all I kept thinking is this would be an amazing movie. Like, it's an amazing book. I love this book. But I think for people that don't read, this would be a very fucking cool movie. There are some scenes that, like, there's a scene with some cows and imprinted on the back of my eyelids. Crazy. This book was just really, really, really good. I stayed up late. I never do this anymore. Like, I'm very much try to keep to a schedule for work, like my sleep schedule, so I'm ready to go to work the next day. I stayed up late to finish this book, which again, I never do that anymore. I stop reading probably like an hour or two before I go to sleep. I stayed up to finish this, and as soon as I finished it, I messaged the author on Instagram just to tell her how much I appreciated and loved this book, and she fucking responded. Crazy. So, yeah, I would highly recommend, if you are not bothered by like discussions of infertility and women's bodies and motherhood and those sorts of discussions, I think this book was quite powerful, quite strong, but also just the right amount of horror to enjoy. And I loved that by the end of this book, like, there's a villain, there's a bad guy, but then like when you really stop and think about it, there are a couple of reasons where I'm like, I guess it's justified. It's crazy. I really fucking love this book. That was my reading month. So, what did you guys read? I've only read, I think, one book so far for May. I'm in the middle. Oh no, I've read 2 books for May, and I'm in the middle of another one. And I am starting my Dracula readathon today. So, very exciting. I don't have a TBR set for the rest of the month, but we'll just see how we go. I should film an April haul video, but I don't know if I can be bothered. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great reading month, and I will see you soon.